Over 30 years ago, on January 15th, 1993, was a day that will always be considered an historical event, with the capture of Coglianesi boss Salvatore Toto Riina. Just days before his capture, an ROS military combat unit headed by Sergio DiCaprio parked a surveillance van near a villa occupied by the wife and children of Toto Riina. And as the story goes, this address became known to law enforcement after the arrest of Baldassare Di Maggio, one of Riina's drivers, as well as a member of Sicilian Cosa Nostra. He was arrested for illegal possession of a weapon on January 9th, 1993. And while being interrogated at the Carabinieri barracks, he turned to the officers and said the following: "Okay, come on, I'll take you to Toto Riina." So on January 15th, 1993, the officers of the ROS had a camera in the van and were on the lookout for La Balena, translated to the whale, a nickname that they gave Riina. Nearby, Di Maggio sat in another car and would identify the car driven by Salvatore Biondino, Riina's other driver. Biondino, also a member and the head of the San Lorenzo family. For months, Toto Riina had been living with his family at Via Bernini in Palermo, Sicily. He'd been a fugitive on and off since 1969. At about 9:30 a.m., Biondino pulled out through the gate with Toto Riina sitting in the passenger seat of his blue Citroën XZ. Di Maggio confirmed that it was the right car. A half a dozen law enforcement cars followed the blue car, which they had boxed in. And when they reached an intersection and came to a red light, they pounced on the car. First, they grabbed Biondino and then Riina. It took place very quickly and looked like an abduction. Toto Riina was wearing an oversized brown jacket with a green cashmere scarf. One of the first things that he said to the men that surrounded him was, "Who are you? I'm sick." The men from the ROS unit said he looked scared and didn't make them as law enforcement and probably feared of being killed. They appropriately named the operation Operation Belva, which translates to beast in reference to a nickname that the media gave Riina, the beast. He also told the officers that they were making a mistake, and then said something of great significance. "No one has ever approached me," implying that he's been able to move around freely as a fugitive. In the police barracks, a monumental picture was taken of Riina standing under a photo of General Carlo Alberto Dalla Chiesa, who was killed on September 3rd, 1982, by a Coglianese hit team who killed him and his wife in their car. The order for that murder was given by Toto Riina. At some point, Riina told the prison guard, "Provenzano and Cianciamino had me arrested." Most viewers know who Bernardo Provenzano is. He would replace Riina as the head of the Sicilian mafia and was a fugitive himself at the time. Vito Cianciamino was a politician who was very close to both Riina and Provenzano. However, according to reports from prison, Riina allegedly conducted his own investigation and cleared Provenzano of any wrongdoings. On the day of his arrest, Riina was headed to attend a commission meeting with fellow Sicilian bosses. And it's always come under question why he wasn't followed to that meeting where other fugitive bosses could have also been captured. Following Di Maggio's arrest, which was 6 days before Riina would be arrested, Giuseppe Graviano, who along with his brother were members of the Sicilian Commission, was recorded speaking to Camorra boss Umberto Andonoffi and told him, "I was a fugitive in Omegna. I spent 4 years on the run. One morning, the person who was hosting me said to me, 'They arrested Balduccio Di Maggio last night,' and he immediately started collaborating." There are two interesting questions that come to mind from that statement. The first being, how did they know Di Maggio was cooperating? And more importantly, why wasn't Toto Riina warned that one of his drivers was arrested and cooperating with authorities? We have at least one of the answers. Graviano continued in his wiretap conversation with Andonoffi and said he did meet with Biondino, Riina's other driver, and told him the news. So is this true? Did he actually tell Biondino? Then why didn't Riina avoid going to see his family, which put him directly at risk of being captured? According to Italian prosecutor Vittorio Teresi, Toto Riina was handed over to the Carabinieri by a Cosa Nostra wing close to Bernardo Provenzano. At the time, there were two factions within the Sicilian mafia who were divided, causing internal tensions. One faction included Leo Luca Bagarella, Riina's brother-in-law and successor, and Giovanni Brusca, both in favor of continuing the violence against the state. The other faction included Michelangelo La Barbera and Raffaele Ganci, who opposed the violence. Provenzano felt the violence would be counterproductive, so allegedly he stepped in and allowed the capture of Toto Riina, but demanded that the hiding place at Via Bernini not be searched. And the residence was stripped of all its belongings, repainted by the time it was searched. These negotiations were relayed by Vito Ciancimino's son Massimo, because Ciancimino was incarcerated at the time. In December 1992, Massimo told the magistrates that he personally received an envelope from Provenzano with maps of Riina's hideout. He would bring that envelope up to his father in prison, who told him to turn it over. Provenzano was not happy with the direction Riina was taking the organization and had foresight and knew that the violence had to stop. Even when Bagarella took over, that violence continued. And when Provenzano complained to Bagarella regarding the massacres, targeted bombings, Bagarella responded by telling him to wear a sign saying, "I don't have nothing to do with the massacres." Bagarella, wielding more power than Provenzano, insulted and disrespected him. If you haven't liked this video yet, please take the time now and give it a like, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. Anyone who'd like to show their appreciation for videos like this, or more importantly, help me to continue making them, you can donate with the Super Thanks icon down below or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Let me quickly mention my blog, also called Sit Down News, especially for those of you who still enjoy reading. The site can be found at sitdownnews.com and is a paid subscription. So here's my take on the 1993 capture. Toto Riina, under his leadership, the Sicilian mafia, who at one time in the past was colluding with the Italian state through corrupt politicians, judges, and law enforcement officials, took a U-turn and began carrying out target attacks in the form of bombings. Riina composed the infamous Papello, a document in which he, the head of Cosa Nostra, made certain demands from the state, such as a review of the Maxi trial, which ended in multiple convictions, including 12 life sentences, one that, to no surprise, belonged to him and was handed down in absentia. Another demand was the abolition of the seizure of assets, as well as the harsh prison 41 bis units. Italian politicians and judges denied any knowledge of this document. Allegedly, the original document was passed from Provenzano to Matteo Messina Denaro and has never been discovered since, even with all the searches following Denaro's January 2023 capture. Toto Riina caused mass destruction with blowback on Cosa Nostra, and his time was up. And the power at the time was Provenzano, a rational thinking boss respected by many. So he put a plan in motion to remove Toto Riina from his throne and into a prison cell.